in this demo, we're going to go ahead and deploy Kubernetes with AKS, so Azure Kubernetes Services. First thing we need to do is go to our Cloud Shell and just expand that to halfway. Make sure you are on Bash, not PowerShell. Before we start coding, the first thing we need to do is input our variables. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Another thing which is not available in your skill pipe until a little bit later is the version. You need to actually go ahead and find a version that's compatible with the region that we have specified, so East US, and we will look at that a little bit later. So the first thing we need to do is create our resource group. So let's go ahead and do that. Paste that in there. And as you can see, you've got AZ group create, the resource group name, which is what we provided above, and the region name. Let's go ahead and enter that. And that has been completed, so we can move to the next stage. And the next stage, we need to go ahead and configure the container network interface. So we're going to go ahead and create a virtual network. So we need to go ahead and paste our next part, which is our virtual network. And as you can see, we've got our AZ network VNet create. We've got the resource group, the location, the VNet name, which we have provided up here, the AKS-VNet. We've got the addresses and a subnet available also. So let's go ahead and enter that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video at this point, and when it is completed, I'll return. Okay, that is completed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and clear this, just so I can start back again from the top. Next thing I need to do is go ahead and store the subnet ID using a bash variable, and the command we're going to be using for this is subnet ID equals the AZ network VNet subnet show. Is the command, and we're going to go ahead and store that in that particular variable. So let's go ahead and do that. Next, we need to go ahead and create an AKS cluster. So next thing we need to do is use the AKA_cluster name. Before we do that, we need to go ahead and create a new version variable. And the reason we're going to create a version variable is when we actually go ahead and create our AKS cluster, we will need to specify what version we want. And in order to know what version you want to have, first and foremost, you must know what versions are available. So if we go here, AZ AKS get-version, enter that. Then we'll have to put the location in. So this won't get you the information. So what you need to do next is put the location in. So that _location, and we have specified East US. If you have specified anything else, please put that. Make sure you put that in there. Ultimately, what you can do for the location, you could have literally just put the variable that we created for it earlier on. Now, as you can see right there, boom, boom, boom. You get version location East US. What's the issue? What's the error message? Here's get version. Oh, apologies, I'm missing the S. Get versions. There we go. Okay, so these are all the AKS versions that are available. So as you can see, the first version that's available is 1.19.11, and then they go on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use the first one. So 1.19.11. So what we're going to do is put versions equals 1.19.11. Okay, so now you have got the version variable. Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and create an AKS cluster name, and it must be unique. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a variable for that as well. And as you can see, we specified our AKA cluster name and our AKS workshop hyphen and our random unique set of numbers. We can then go ahead and find that information if we want. and we can use the echo command, and this will give us our AKS workshop hyphen 23397. So this is our name of our cluster now. Now let's go ahead and use the Aks create command, and we're going to go ahead and create this. I'm not going to go through every single one. You guys can have a look at it, but generally speaking, you've got a load balancer, the location. However, I want to look at the version. So as you can see right here, you've got the version and you've got the variable. So you must specify the version prior to running this command. If for whatever reason you don't run the version, you literally just, instead of putting $, version, you just put 1.19.11 or any of the versions that you have selected or decided you want to have. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so once again, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and we'll wait for that to finish. It may take a couple of minutes. Okay, that is completed now. So what we next need to do is go ahead and use our kubectl and check the status of our Azure Kubernetes services. So before we do that, let's actually just minimize this, go into our resource group. Here's our resource group that we created. And as you can see, we've got our network security group, our managed identity, the VM scales, public IP address, and our load balancer. Okay, so as you can see, this has deployed as we have expected it to do so. So let's go back to our Cloud Shell. So the first thing we need to do now is go ahead and retrieve our cluster credentials. So we're going to use the AKS get credentials. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, great. Now what we need to do is use our kubectl and get nodes. Come on. And as you can see right there, we have now got 3 different nodes available. All of them have got a status of ready. They have aged around 8 minutes and 8 to 9 minutes. So if I was to run that again, this would obviously go up. And if you remember the version that we actually gone ahead and deployed it under, these are the version in which the nodes are now available. So next thing we need to do is go ahead and create a namespace for our applications. Okay, so what we're going to do first and foremost is use the kubectl get namespace command. As you can see, these are the namespaces that exist within our environment. And these list of namespaces essentially are just different parts of your actual Azure Kubernetes that exist within your cluster. Next, what we need to do is go ahead and create a new namespace. We're going to call it for an application, and the name we're going to give it is ratings app. Okay, so the command for this is kubectl create namespace, and we're going to call it ratings app. Okay, and as you can see, we have now gone ahead and created our namespace, and let's go ahead and check. And as you can see, if we want to create a namespace for ourselves, we can go ahead and do so. And this was created 7 days ago. Oh, 7 days, sorry. This was 7 seconds ago. Okay, well, that is the end of our demo. And we have gone through the process of creating an Azure Kubernetes cluster, deploying nodes, checking our nodes, checking the namespaces, and also creating a namespace.